the way we approve vaccine compared to how it is happening globally. Like we have moved ahead with Covaxin, but then, for instance, WHO is taking its own time coming back, looking at data and all of that. So, are we in a hurry to look at this? We have approved one of the world's first vaccines, so to say, the DNA vaccine. So, is there anything in terms of the way we approve vaccine? This is a thought which some people seem to be asking. Do you have any thought on this, Doctor?
So I will give you the example of typhoid vaccines. The typhoid vaccines were designed originally as polysaccharide vaccines, which is the typhoid bacillus has a coat or a capsule that is made up of sugars, and that VI polysaccharide was made and used as a vaccine. That vaccine worked pretty well. There was a phase 3 efficacy trial that was done in Calcutta in the early 2000s, showed that the vaccine had quite reasonable performance, about 65% efficacy, and that protection lasted for a while. Now, after that, the problem with those polysaccharide vaccines is you don't know how long the protection will last, and also polysaccharide vaccines you can't give to young children, and young children have the most typhoid burden in the country. So WHO and others recommended, let's wait until we have typhoid conjugate vaccines that can produce a really robust immune response and protect for much longer, because we know from the pneumococcus story, the Haemophilus influenza B story, that conjugate vaccines work much better than polysaccharide vaccines. So Bharat Biotech developed a polysaccharide conjugated vaccine. They first developed a polysaccharide vaccine, then a polysaccharide conjugated vaccine. This was the first vaccine developed in the world. Our regulator, it was the second vaccine, because there was a small company called Biomed that had made a vaccine based on, I think it was 124 children in an immunogenicity study. And our regulator gave them approval based on only safety and immunogenicity data. The small study was considered sufficient for licensure. So when Bharat Biotech went to the regulator, again, Bharat Biotech got approval for this vaccine based on safety and immunogenicity. Bharat Biotech's study on immunogenicity was bigger than Biomed's. It was 900 people. And it followed people for a long time, but it had no measure of clinical efficacy. And this vaccine was approved. They went to the regulator, they went to WHO asking for pre-qualification, and wound up getting the vaccine evaluated for clinical efficacy in a typhoid human challenge study in Oxford. And with that data, which was given during the submission of the WHO pre-qualification review process, they then had the full package, and this became the first typhoid conjugate vaccine to be licensed in the world, right? Licensed, globally licensed with the WHO pre-qualification. Now, at the time, a lot of people asked, how does your regulator approve a vaccine with no clinical efficacy data? And it can be done. It can be done with bridging to the old polysaccharide vaccine, bridging to a conjugate vaccine that was done somewhere else, accepting something as a correlate of protection. But for typhoid, actually, there is no clear correlate of protection, and yet our regulator licensed the vaccine. Now, it's fine. The vaccine is great. The vaccine has been evaluated in many parts of the world, Nepal, Bangladesh, Malawi, and it has 80+% efficacy. So it's a great vaccine. So was our regulator wiser than the regulators in other parts of the world to license a vaccine that was later shown to have great clinical efficacy? It's certainly feasible. And you could make that argument for the vaccines that were licensed in India. I protested about Covaxin because I thought the data were incomplete without even finishing recruitment for their phase 3 clinical trial. But ultimately, Covaxin's phase 3 data shows that the vaccine works very well. So maybe our regulator and the subject expert committees that they have do make the right decisions, or their decisions are validated by the data that comes out later. But I do know that other regulators are very insistent on clinical efficacy.